Thank you all. We now move on to item 4. Okay. We'll start with the presentation. Yeah.
Good afternoon, Chair and Board of Supervisors. Today, staff is requesting the Board to consider a potential amendment to the zoning ordinance related to the separate sale of accessory dwelling units, also known as ADUs. This is the 5th zoning ordinance amendment brought before the Board this year and builds on the Board's previous actions to expand housing opportunities in the unincorporated county. Today, we will be discussing the separate sale of ADUs and potential options for implementation that support home ownership and encourage owner occupancy. We will review the direction provided by the Board on March 4th. Then we'll introduce draft options for supporting home ownership and owner occupancy through the separate sale of ADUs. The County of San Diego is one of the few jurisdictions in California that allows ADUs to be sold separately from the primary residence as condominiums. The Board's previous action established ADU condominiums as a new housing product in the unincorporated area, creating an additional tool to support local home ownership objectives. By allowing an ADU to be sold separately from the primary residence, the program creates home ownership opportunities at price points that may be more attainable than traditional single-family homes. This can provide an additional entry point into home ownership, particularly for first-time home buyers, while expanding the range of ownership housing options available in the unincorporated area. On March 4th of 2026, the Board adopted an ordinance allowing the separate sale of ADUs under AB 1033. While state code establishes the basic framework for AB 1033, jurisdictions are allowed to include local criteria. The Board directed staff to return with options that could further support home ownership and owner occupancy. The options presented today build on that direction and would only apply to properties with ADUs sold separately from the primary home under AB 1033. Today's request is for the Board to consider 4 draft options specifically related to implementation criteria for the separate sale of ADUs. The Board may choose to implement 1, several, or none of these options. These options were developed in coordination with Board offices and stakeholder outreach as directed by the Board. Each option reflects a different policy approach for the Board's consideration while building upon the county's existing separate sale of ADU program. The options are intended to expand access to homeownership while promoting stability and owner occupancy through the separate sale of ADUs. The draft options include Option 1, maintaining the existing ordinance, which allows the separate sale of ADUs following the state framework. Option 2, a right of first refusal, providing an existing tenant or condo owner on the property with an opportunity to match a purchase offer. Option 3, requiring owner occupancy for a certain period of time. And Option 4, requiring a public listing period when selling an ADU condo.
With the first option, the Board may choose not to add any additional local criteria and not to implement any of the other options. This would maintain the ADU ordinance as it was adopted on March 4th and continue to allow the separate sale of ADUs as condos using framework from state legislation AB 1033. This would preserve maximum flexibility for property owners and avoid added regulatory complexity. The current ordinance, as it exists, works to advance local policy objectives to increase homeownership opportunities by allowing smaller, more attainable housing types available for sale. Our second option is a right of first refusal. Under this approach, before a unit could be sold, an existing tenant or another condo owner on the property would have the opportunity to match the purchase offer. The intent is to create a pathway to homeownership for existing tenants or a right-sizing opportunity for another owner on the same lot. An ADU condo owner could upsize to the primary dwelling condo, or a primary dwelling condo owner could downsize to the ADU. The draft option currently includes a 30-day window to execute a matching sales agreement. A right of first refusal would add new requirements to the sales process and could affect marketability or transaction timing. Stakeholders suggested that a shorter response window, such as 15 days, could help balance flexibility with the intent of the program. If the board chooses to pursue this option, the response timeframe could be adjusted prior to adoption. Option 3 is an owner occupancy affidavit, which would apply to both existing units and new construction. This option would require buyers of ADU condos to sign an affidavit confirming that they or a family member intend to occupy the unit as their primary residence for a specified period. This approach is intended to prioritize owner occupants, and in doing so, it supports long-term community stability and aligns with the board's interest in promoting owner occupancy. During outreach, we heard mixed feedback on this. Some participants questioned how an owner occupancy requirement could be effectively enforced and whether it would substantially change purchasing patterns, noting that many buyers may already intend to live in the units they purchased. An owner occupancy requirement is a new responsibility for both the buyer and the seller of an ADU. Buyers would be required to commit to residency, and for sellers, marketability may be impacted if the potential buyers perceive an owner occupancy requirement as too restrictive. Option 4 is a public listing period. Under this approach, ADU condos would be publicly listed for a set period, such as 30 days, with a disclosure noting that priority is intended for buyers who plan to use a unit as a primary residence. The intent is to increase transparency and provide a fair opportunity for eligible buyers, including first-time homebuyers, to learn about and compete for these units. In many cases, this may already align with how units are marketed today. At the same time, this option would add new responsibilities for sellers, particularly in situations involving waitlists or time-sensitive transactions. For that reason, the draft language includes the ability for some exceptions at the director's discretion. If the board chooses to pursue this option, it may choose to modify the required posting timeframe prior to adoption. On June 12, 2026, the Planning Commission reviewed all programmatic options and recommended the board consider options 2, 3, and 4. The Commission expressed no objections to these options and suggested the following timeframes. Option 2, right of first refusal, 30 days to match an offer. Option 3, owner occupancy statement, 1 year owner occupancy commitment. Option 4, public posting period, 30-day minimum listing period. If the board chooses to combine option 2 with option 3 or 4, it may adjust the associated timelines. For example, the board could reduce the right of first refusal period or the public posting period from 30 days to 15 days, allowing the combined requirements to be completed within a 30-day time frame.
Through this effort, several additional potential concepts were discussed. These concepts were above and beyond the options brought forward, and they are not specific to the separate sale of ADUs. These additional concepts may have potential to support broader housing goals for all housing types. These concepts include tenant relocation assistance going beyond the 1 month of rent that landlords must pay tenants for no-fault evictions under state law. While ADUs are generally excluded from the state protection, many cities have adopted local requirements that expand eligibility or payment requirements. Empty home tax, intended to encourage owners of vacant residential properties to rent or sell their units. A similar effort was pursued by the city of San Diego, but was not approved by voters. Deed restrictions, requiring the sale of ADU condos to low or moderate income buyers. While this approach is legally permissible, it would require the establishment of an administrative framework to implement and monitor the program. Larger ADU types, requiring a new CEQA analysis and stakeholder outreach for a new discretionary building type in the zoning ordinance. These concepts may warrant further consideration. However, they are not currently included in the department's work plan. If the board is interested in exploring these concepts, they could be considered as part of the county's 7th cycle housing element update and associated housing strategy efforts. While not specific to ADU's separate sale program, the board may provide direction on these concepts at their discretion today. Staff recommends that the board take the following actions. Find that the program is exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act and consider the options for local implementation criteria for the separate sale of ADUs. This concludes our presentation. Staff are available to answer questions.
Sorry, I'm getting my notes. I had some questions. Give me a second if my colleagues have any questions. Okay, we'll go to public comment.
Thank you, Chair Weston Reamer. We have 15 requests to speak on this item, 7 in person and 8 requesting to speak by phone. Also, note for the record that we received 60 comments, 1 in support, 1 in opposition, and 1 neutral. For any individuals that requested to speak on item 4 by phone, please dial into the conference line using the instructions that were provided to you. We'll begin with the in-person speakers. As your name is called, please come forward and stand on the arrows until it's your turn to speak at the podium. We'll have 1 minute to address the board since there are 10 or more speakers on this item. I'll be calling you groups of 3, so I'll ask you to please listen for your name. I'd like to invite forward first 3 individuals: Beth Nelson, Cesar Javier, Dory Rattray. I'll invite additional speakers: allegedly Audra, Rafael Perez, Meredith Munger, and Alonzo Gonzalez. I've called your names, please come forward. Again, I'll ask you to please state your name for the audio record.
Talk about macro managing everything. It's like you guys want to have your hands in everybody's business so that you can bring in requirements and restrictions. And, you know, I'm wondering about these HOA requirements for these, what they consider micro condo communities. If you have an ADU on your property, then you actually have to create an HOA. And in that, the homeowner holds all the legal power, which I don't know how that's good for an HOA if the person, like, that doesn't, absolute power corrupts. But you guys are destroying the single-family residential communities where people have gone there to, you know, just have a nice single-family home, and all of a sudden these monstrosities are coming up that are like apartment buildings. And there's no fire evacuation routes, there's limited parking, and so it's like this goes along with your preparedness for wildfire when you're actually putting people in danger by claiming that you want them to own a home so that you can take it from them when they can't pay for it, because people are just struggling to pay rent, and you think they're going to buy a home.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
I'm Meredith Munger with the Building Industry Association's Responsible ADU Committee. I'm also speaking on behalf of Rafael Perez of the Casita Coalition and the California Association of Realtors. We strongly urge you to adopt AB 1033 as is without the additional items. And I actually thought the Planning Commission agreed on that approach as well, but perhaps I'm wrong. I was at the June 12th and we had long discussions about not adding any extra regulations. This is new to here in California, but data from other states shows that about 75% of ADUs are sold off. And the classic examples are from seniors. And I wish Stephen Stonehouse and his wife, he serves on the Sweetwater Planning Board, I wish that he was here because they are in their 80s. They built an ADA compliant ADU that they had planned to move into. And then because most seniors have no house payment.
Thank you.
All right.
Next speaker,
I'm here
please.
for questions.
Alonzo Gonzalez with the nonprofit San Diego Housing Coalition. I also heard the Planning Commission state some reservations and concerns about the 4 options. Our group is okay with all 4 of the options. We hope that you consider streamlining the 30 days to 2 weeks if you go with option 2 or 4. I think a bigger concern, some of the public comments and back and forth with staff are lost opportunities on 2 points: streamlining the process, making concurrent mapping with building permits possible. That would shave off months of the process. That is a possibility. I think staff is on top of that, and we'll be working forward to that, hopefully, and also making the ADU more flexible. Before we talk about the general plan update, allowing junior ADUs to be attached to ADUs would not create additional units. It doesn't require a general plan update. The state would allow it, and it creates more incentives so that we see this opportunity in working class neighborhoods where pencil city.
Thank you. Final call for Beth Nelson, Cesar Javier, and Jordy Bradbury. We'll now hear from those that requested to speak by phone. We'll start with our first caller.
Hi, Paul Lowe. Option 1 is to list the ordinance as is. Option 2 provides assurance to the owner that the ADU would be offered to a tenant they've already approved. It's better than having to reestablish a relationship with a succession of prospective tenants. Option 3 could subject the property owner's ADU to a tenant they don't know or don't get along with. Option 4 means that the Board of Supervisors could set a countywide sales method, which the ADU owner might not have the time to or be able to comply with. And the retail websites often specialize in certain areas or properties, so it might require the use of retail websites that might not be right for the particular owner. Therefore, I would reject option 3.
Thank you. Hear from the next caller.
Monica, I really did not realize that you were so sensitive. I'm sorry I mentioned the fact that you worked with the ACLU, and I think your prior position was a lot better. They should have never promoted you to supervisor. Period. I'm saying that 100% because if you cannot accept criticism, you're in the wrong position. Just wanted to go ahead and let you know that. Regarding the ADUs, I'm pretty sure the ACLU already determined the route that we're going to go in and take on that. So this is just a circuit show, as Chair Lemer quite accurately stated multiple times at the Board of Supervisors meeting, meaning it's just smoke and mirrors. This is just so check mark. Yes, we talk to the people. We don't care what they have to say. We're going to do what we want to do because we were paid to do something. We were given a lot of benefits from basically ACLU and the company group.
Thank you. Hear from the next caller.
Hey, Trish, just like cannabis, this is all about the campaign donors getting rich off the backs of regular people. It's also things like the lack of response for the sewage crisis and the fires, because there is no housing crisis. I'm going to repeat that. There is no housing crisis. Don't use it as your excuse to just build up everywhere, because there's an affordability crisis that is very California specific and can be changed at any time. That has nothing to do with the corporate developer friends building raising property values beyond what normal people can afford, let alone creating increased parking, evacuation, fire, and law enforcement needs. We already know that this corrupt Union Control Board will implement fake Allison Snow tenant, fake protection lines that have never helped anyone. We'll implement the city spending with extra taxes on homes, along with Gonzalez streamlining corruption, and anything else that makes San Diego County homes unaffordable. Because these multiple property-owning individuals on the border out of touch with reality because they are fake. Expensive boxes, no front yards, backyards, not no solution. Over.
Thank you. Next call.
Amen to all the ones paying attention. The plan and goal is to have no homeowners at all, and this is how they'll execute that. So government has their dirty, greedy hands on everything, so gross, profits off of everything from the people, and penalizing people for using what's legally already there. This item regarding ADUs is just another government scam. Homeowners shouldn't be required to have to check in with government for anything pertaining to their property. Everything presented is not to help the people, but to further control them and submission by imposing even more restrictions and will be penalized for not complying. So there you go, government always wins. Big government is big bullies, big mafia, big bullshit, and people need to wake up and start calling it out. Honestly, it's just...
Thank you. Chair Lawson Reamer, that concludes public comment on this item.
Thank you so much. So sorry, I was looking for my notes and I found them and I have a bunch of questions, Mr. Minor. But first I just want to say thank you for the work. I know you had a bunch of kind of different options to put together. You did a really good job. I think the first one was just trying to better understand how we would verify. What would be the verification? So for example, option 3, enforce. Requiring primary residence occupancy commitment, and it's an affidavit. Well, what if that's the affidavit, someone lied on the affidavit? How would we investigate this?
Chair, it would be a condition as part of the condo subdivision to begin with. So when we process the condo subdivision to sell off the ADU, we place a condition that they have to do the affidavit. Then we would require the affidavit as part of that in the sales contract. It generally would be a civil matter if it is not enforced. We would follow up on complaints if we receive them. The reference point we're using on this is years ago we had a requirement if someone built a second home on a property before there was an ADU program for an affidavit for the owner to occupy either the primary residence or the second home. We had very few complaints to us about that at the time. But we do not regulate real estate transactions, and so just similar to other real estate transaction requirements that the state has on a property, we don't have an enforcement tool in those should we get complaints on it. If we did get complaints, we follow up with the property owners to let them know that we received a complaint to inquire.
Who would complain? How would they know to complain? Does someone have to stand to complain? I think this is great. I just feel like there's not a lot of, I don't know how you enforce this, right? So
being a condition on the project itself, we do get complaints from neighbors, property owners, random individuals that conditions on projects are not enforced. We have team members within the department that follow up with property owners of projects. If a condition is not being satisfied, that we can follow up on them. We do have some enforcement tools in the department to enforcement if conditions are not continuing to be met. And so subdivisions, use permits, things like that. If a condition is not being met, we can take enforcement action. We have a code compliance program. We can engage in that regard as well.
What would that enforcement action look like?
Start with contacting the individual to inquire to find out who's living there. We can move forward with escalated enforcement through citations should we get it. Oftentimes enforcement is a combination of county action and then property owners taking civil action as well in parallel should they want to move forward and advance that.
Sorry, I feel like I don't want to make a big hay of this. I mostly just have like some small questions, but I'm getting like less and less satisfied as we kind of unfold. Again, I thought this would be simple. I'm just like, who would do that? It just does not feel enforceable. I think it's like from what you're describing to me. I don't know. So you get a fine. Who would submit? How do you know who to call to submit the fine? How much would the fine be? It's too late. The person already bought the property. You can't undo the sale. Like, I don't know here. Like, what happens if someone like lies on a loan application, for example, and says that it's a primary residence when it's not? How is that kind of being enforced?
Sure, I think what you're touching on are some of the challenges of bridging into this legal arena of real estate law, and I'm leaning a little bit on our legal counsel here. We do have the code compliance mechanisms, but I think to say, okay, there's an issue here, something may not be adhered to, but this does then move into the legal arena. And I'd like to turn to council to talk about what actions would need to happen to ensure that enforcement occurs, but we would be in a little bit of a challenging position in terms of county framework that could address this. This really does become a civil litigation-oriented issue if someone were to lie on an affidavit. So I'm going to turn to Jared Murphy to assist with that.
Chair, I don't know a lot to add to what Diane just said. If there's not a strong enforcement mechanism that can directly enforce these things, there does create a legal requirement that it's not observed during a real estate transaction, may create some legal rights for anybody who wants to challenge it, a neighbor or somebody else who might have benefited from it.
Okay, so it creates some kind of legal claim, cause of action, I guess, but who could bring a lawsuit, and then what would their remedy be? I mean, if you're basically saying, hey, we have no ability to enforce this, but we're gonna set up a bunch of rules and people can enforce it against each other, you're saying bring each other, essentially you're saying bring y'all to each other, essentially. Like, that's all we've got. What do they get? What would they get? What would be the remedy?
I mean, there's not a lot of precedent on this. You brought up the example of the representations on commissary, and that's very good precedent in private residence, and there's pretty good evidence across the country that that's generally complied with.
Well, what's the enforcement mechanism? I don't even know. Like, what happens if someone lies on that?
There's not a lot of good examples of actual enforcement of that requirement. It's a requirement that most people don't, and there's not a lot of enforcement.
Well, I don't want to monopolize, but I think overall, I think this is great. It's like really going in the right direction. I just want to make sure that it's not just a piece of paper, that it's like meaningful. Let me null on that, like null on that. But again, like, really good job. I just want to make sure that we can enforce it without that. Turning the floor to Vice Chair Marquez.
Yeah, thank you for the conversation. I am thinking through our last conversation, especially around the right of first refusal, which we all felt, if I remember correctly, that was at least something to explore, because part of what the state's intent was, part of the reason why this is not been tested is because the whole concept is new, number one. And then two, the intent behind what the state did was to possibly open up additional homeownership opportunities for people, right? So even now, like even with code enforcement, there's some things that we can go in and say, well, technically, this may be your line, your property line, this may be yours, but what we have is old, so you guys are gonna have to go to court. Like, we do that now, right? So that's, for me, it's maybe looking at, in our budget discussions, how we could, add this into the super large code enforcement, which is not something none of us wants to do, I don't know, whatever. I'm just saying that. I think because it's new, we're not gonna have a whole lot of precedent, right? So anyway, I just wanna make sure we're doing everything we can to try to open up those opportunities, and we're not having investors, come in and buy up a bunch of ADUs anyway to kind of defeat the purpose. I've seen it happen before where, yes, it is tough to watch neighborhoods growing this way. This can be a highly controversial topic, but if we're going to do it, we should at least make sure that it's open to the people that it was, intended for. Just people who still want a place to call their own, if for nothing else, they have the stability of a mortgage as opposed to rent. So, with that in mind, I was originally thinking about the right of first refusal, whether 30 days was enough and all that, but I think just the way that it is presented to us, these options 2, 3, 4, I'm looking forward to hearing from my colleagues, but where I stand right now is I'm okay with the options moving forward as to where we are now, and I think some of the other discussion points can be taken up later on as a board, just because of the procedural conundrum we find ourselves in. So that's my initial feedback.
Supervisor Desmond.
Is that a motion?
Yes, I will make that a motion because it doesn't really change the discussion. I know you're gonna speak your mind and everyone else is too, so. I'll make that a motion for adding the options 2 through 4.
I'll second. Thank you. I think it's great. And I too had questions about, how we're going to enforce this. And quite frankly, probably don't have that many means. However, they are signing a legal document, and sooner or later, things like this will come back and bite you in. I mean, we already have that where you say you're going to have, even politicians say their primary residence has been, shifts around and moves around. But
I feel like you're saying bad karma is our.
Well, it's karma is probably the best thing we got. That if you agree to sign this, it's a 1-year commitment, or to occupy it, and we really don't have the police unless there's a complaint, and then we can go in. But I'm okay with that. Quite frankly, I agree with the Supervisor Montgomery-Stepp in the fact that we really want to get young families into home ownership. And this is not the perfect path, but it is a path, and so I'm happy to second it. And like I said, these ADUs are uniquely primed for first-time home buyers due to their affordability, especially when compared to market rates of other single-family homes. So I'm happy to support it. Thank you.
Supervisor Anderson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm good with all this. What doesn't work, we can change. It's not in stone. And so while thinking in terms of where we want to head, I'd like to amend this to include to direct the CAO to report back to the board within 180 days with options to increase the size of ADUs from 1,200 to sizes such as 1,400 or 1,600 or larger. I just want to know what the options are. I don't want us to move forward with it. I just want to know what those options are, because if we're talking about moving for this independence and allowing people to purchase, perhaps 1,600 square feet is a better number that would allow a family of 3 or 4, or commit for, I was thinking 3 or 4 children. So 6. But it might be more appropriate. But I thought since we're going to give them direction, we should make it a little more inclusive, just to look at what steps we have to take to explore that. And I don't know if we turned in language for it. Okay.
To the makers of the motion and the seconder.
I'm fine with that at a later point to discuss it, but I think.
It's just to discuss, because we don't know what we're up against.
But I think I would add a discussion about having the restriction discussions about that.
Well, I'm good voting with what you suggested.
Yeah.
All I'm saying is, in addition to it, since we're looking at all this, so
direct staff, so what we have, the motion on the floor, and then to ask the direct staff to come back to us with options around a larger ADU type and the restriction.
I am going to hand my note over.
Okay,
and
all right.
I'll be able to read it.
Okay.
It's right here, but I can use the back, so.
While Andrew's typing, can we all talk to each other? One conversation, please. While Andrew's typing, the chairperson has comments.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And something on the friendly amendment, I would just suggest that we cap it around 1,400, 1,600, because anything bigger kind of defeats the purpose. It'll make the ADU more expensive, and that's what we're trying to foster and foment here is accessibility to home ownership for young families, like you mentioned, or elderly. So I would say we don't go too big.
Okay.
I think staff's going to come back and say, we can go to here, but then we have to jump through these extra hoops to go bigger than that. And I'm just looking for, what is it? I'm not thinking it's going to be 2,400 square feet.
Okay. It was very ambiguous. Okay. Yeah, I just want to say I support the motion with the friendly amendment. I think that this is a very real path to help, your elderly parents or your adult kids, or to build generational wealth, especially for people in my district. So I will be supporting that. Thank you.
Just to clarify, though, that the amendment also includes exploration of deed restriction. So, want to add how you would like to say that, Vice Chair, on this piece of paper that Andy's put up on the.
Okay, so I just want to make sure that addressing that additional, issue that was in the board letter. I don't necessarily need it in the motion.
I like it. I'm supporting the addition of the deed restriction.
I like what I'm saying is, I think we're gonna talk about it regardless, but because we have called this out, I just don't want us to get left behind.
Yeah.
I guess it's just my point, because I wanted to talk about this as well.
So do you want to say at the same time, report back with options for deed restriction units? Same time report back?
Deed restriction as a condition of permitting an ADU.
As a deed restriction as a condition of permitting an ADU. Okay,
Based on the way we're using it. And these are just discussion items. We're not saying we're supporting, not supporting, yes. So I'm okay with that if the standard is.
Okay, and I would love to make a friendly movement to the friendly amendment. I think I'd like to have a discussion around enforcement, like what are the best options around enforcement for whatever we pass. How are we going to enforce this? And looking at all the tools in the toolkit, and just to kind of put some commentary on it. It could be things as simple as like publicizing a phone number or an email to submit a complaint, so at least people know where to go to, or something more complicated like putting this under the purview of county council. Like, I don't know, I'm not predisposing. I just think it would be helpful if we're gonna pass these laws, if something besides karma that we're relying on for people to abide by them. Karma. That was what, I appreciate that.
It happens. I'll trust you sometimes too. So, do we even need this as part of the motion, or can it just be staff direction?
I think that
It's all staff direction.
yes, and I think it's fine either way, but yes, we agree on something, so maybe we just go for it.
If I may, through the chair, it is beneficial for our team who's working on a lot of housing items to have very specific direction on what the board is looking for, so that we provide, appreciate the effort, but so that we do provide a report back that addresses the specific issues that the board is looking at, so we don't need to return again and provide your immediate plan.
6 months we want everything. Okay, I'm fine with it.
Okay. Okay, we have a motion on the floor and a second that includes now this amendment. A motion included options 2, 3, and 4. Okay, it's all written there, and just have all of this as always. Please vote.
Chair Lawson, that motion passes unanimously with all supervisors being present and voting.
Okay, great work, everybody. Okay. Now we're going back to Tuesday. This is another item people have opinions about, trying to get through all the things that the public wanted to participate in. We're on item 29. This is requesting presentations from county consultants contributing to academic research and the development of ballot measures. Supervisor Anderson, this is your item. Give me introductory remarks, and then we'll go to public comment.
Yep, thank you, Madam Chair. We fielded a lot of questions from our constituents in my district. And during the most recent board meeting in June, I mentioned that I was planning to bring forward an item requesting public presentations to the board from county consultants involved in the research and development current and county future ballot measure language. My item asks that the county consultants, known as FM3 Research in Ironwood Public Affairs, to provide a presentation during the September 1st, 2026 board meeting regarding the recent work that they've performed for the county. This work involved surveying several hundred constituents to obtain feedback on the direction the county's headed, what their thoughts were on county governance, and possible new revenue sources. By having the two consultant teams present that information during the September 1st board meeting, all supervisors and the public will have a chance to learn more about the polling details, and I hope that my colleagues, I hope you all will agree to this additional clarity and transparency, so I don't have to field any more phone calls. That's my motion.
Okay, thank you so much. Do we have folks who called in to comment?
Yes, thank you, Chair Losner-Raymer. We have 8 requests to speak on this item. 1 in person, 7 requesting to speak by phone. Any individuals that requested to speak on item 29 by phone, please dial into the conference line using the instructions that were provided to you. I'd like to invite Board Leslie Audra. 2 minutes to address the board.
Look at that. Nobody's here. It's fun. It's like a party. And when you guys are talking about karma, let's say it's more of an FAFO type of a thing. You fuck around and find out when you reap what you sow. So, I mean, you guys are always doing that. Anywho, so let's go to this. This is interesting because not only are our elections totally fraudulent, nobody wants to admit it, but here you're talking about getting more revenue. I mean, you guys are money whores, so it's like anything that you can do to increase the money in your pockets and in your bank accounts, all under the guise of public safety, doing something beneficial for the community. It's like if you guys weren't racketeering, maybe the money that you guys get would be actually spent wisely and we wouldn't have roads in disarray, people living on the streets just hoping to get into a home while you're sitting there here saying that you're going to put people into a home and have them buy it when they can't even pay rent. So let's think about some things that you could do to generate revenue. I think one way would be for you guys to be personally liable for all of the FAFOs that you guys do. And so instead of going into the public liability fund, you guys could bring money back to us for all of the mistakes you make. Like every time, you commit a Brown Act violation. How about something like that? Were you just flipping me off? You pulling a diploma? Like, there you go, you did it again. I love it, because I catch it on my camera. You guys don't get it, because you're looking at me, but it's cool. It's cool. I don't know about aborting babies. Like, maybe every baby that's aborted, we could just, give money back to the community, because they're, not going to take money from us anymore. Yes, I'm talking about revenue generating.
That's not the topic of this item. What it is not. The topic of this item is presentations to the board and information that would be presented to the board regarding legislative research.
Yeah, about revenue. Revenue research. You can sit here and try and play word games around me all day long, but you know that that's in your item. Did you not see it? A and B under number 2? Like I'm just making it up? Exactly.
Fuck you too.
Thank you. I also failed to note how many e-comments received on this item. We received 3 e-comments, 2 in support, 1 in opposition. Any individuals that request to speak by phone, we'll hear from them now. We'll begin with our first caller.
Although, excuse me, well, it's always nice to hear unbiased research. I'm not sure I would trust anything the county says at this point. Or its henchman FM3, who supervised poll at the request of one of its sponsors. You're the second opinion from firm Ironwood, to which FM3 reports as a, quote, sub-consultant, unquote. This incestuous relationship is precisely why I do not trust the self-serving people on the board. The county needs to come clean about this relationship and other, by the way. Next to the 700-odd people polled actually were, which is less than 1,000 of the others, and their relationship to county government. They should have asked me, was there simply plucked from the county, or was there actually an effort to be truly representative? Ordinarily, I support free speech, but this government for a few years has been made a point of not only squelching free speech, but picking whom to squelch. Manipulation is the game, not transparency. And the board cheers us out collectively for disruption, but doesn't seem to care much about your baby disrupting the meeting, not even an apology. Hey, I suggest paying a caregiver to feed the baby in the overflow room. You can afford it. Thanks.
Thank you. We'll hear from the next caller. Ian Riddle, it is your turn to speak. You might want to mute the audio feed that's coming in from the meeting. I'll go ahead and unmute you.
Thank you. That's a little confusing now. Appreciate this opportunity to share a few thoughts I had on item 29 regarding the contribution of the county consultants to these ad hoc subcommittees. I didn't think what these ad hoc subcommittees were really doing was well described in the staff report. As this is something we could tell the public, it has to do with ballot measures. But it seems to me that it's far more comprehensive than that. So I'm not weighing in on this item pro or con, but more from a description of the problems as well as the good part of these county consultants who were contributing. So perhaps a little fuller explanation would have been useful. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll hear from the next caller. Next caller is Truth. Your device might be muted.
Yes, I'm back. That's true. Carol, we the people wanted to talk about this item yesterday. This item was obviously to mitigate from Tara and Monica's backroom deals with J.C. Cooper on the medical subcommittee and their backroom deals with Ironwood and Dan Rottenstrike on the fiscal subcommittee. FNB's $250,000 contract went up by 5.1 times with no public update or approval or knowledge. For the record, I've never received a survey from any county contractor, and I don't know anyone that did. Only 720-something people were allegedly interviewed, which means each conversation cost the taxpayers over $343 for each person. Plus, the alleged research by Ardenwood raises the cost to $784 for each person. More than the 0.0002% of the population of San County residents were interviewed. That's what that means. That's a scam. This is why I, along with several others, have initiated multiple public records requests to get to the bottom of yet another progressive scam. You corrupt entities aren't going to get your tax streams filled anyway, so why do you continue? News reported that a spokesperson for Democratic Supervisor Virginia said she hadn't seen the poll. So you don't know anything about what you're approving? Yeah, right. Tara's protecting you from messaging up the agenda. Because Rottenstrike was and probably still is your campaign consultant. So you don't get that kind of ignorance. Tara lied and lied again to allow Ironwood to subcontract to progressive minion buddies amplify campaigns as a kickback. Rottenstrike just happens to help Cesar Fernandez go $10,000 into campaign debt. Oh, and then $67,000 in debt, just racking it up still. County reports has paid consultants for $160,000 just on one, then $80,000 on other two polls. So you do the polls, at least $569,000 wasted. Tara's becoming a real poll worker. Reminder, a majority of voters in all districts think the county is headed the wrong direction.
Thank you. Hear from the final caller.
Okay, I will say, sorry about that. I will say that, amen to the previous speakers and, yeah. Also, especially to what Paul mentioned. And, as far as that, I'm a little different. I say whip it out anywhere, lady, to feed your baby, but the thing is that you use those babies as political props, and that's so obvious. Because you can't afford it. You can afford like 3 caregivers, but you know, you gotta do what you gotta do to maintain that image. People are catching on, and you're not very liked. I'm so sorry. But don't expose your kids to that, because that's pretty messed up. They don't deserve that. But you don't care. Okay, that's all I have to say.
Thank you. We'll hear from one final caller. This next caller is Becky Rapp, your device planning meeting. Looks like she dropped off. Chalice Freeman, I think, was public comment to this night.
Okay, thank you all so much. Put myself in the queue. I want to say, I think I support the spirit of this item around transparency and making sure that the public has full access to information, and that's why I've already put it online and posted publicly the results of the legislative research that we conducted on these two items. But I have a couple concerns about the way it's written and love to be able to get to yes. So let me just kind of go through those and hopefully I'll be able to support this. I think the first is just regarding the first recommendation, which I could have been really insulted, but I'm going to take it in the spirit of that I think it was, I hope was intended, which was around transparency and not about singling out my office. So it would be, I think it's quite inappropriate to single out one contract for one board office, and really, I don't think it's appropriate for our policy to target just one board office. So I do think the idea, though, of we're asking for these kinds of report backs is totally reasonable. So I drafted some slightly tweaked language that would broaden the net so that it targets a larger set of potential community surveys and polls. I don't know if Andrew, my team, said that. If you want to put that up there. So we can see what I was saying. Oh, it left disappear. Oh, there it is. Okay. So direct the chief administrative officer or designated to request that any community surveys or polling that support legislative research for any board office be presented to the board on the work conducted under the contracts. So that obviously would include the work that FM3 did for my office. It would certainly include that, but it would make sure that any work that was conducted for any offices that was conducting community surveys and polling was included. So that would be my first amendment to the, and I think the impact from your point of view, Supervisor Anderson, would be the same. You get the same reports back. But to me, it's about if we're really committed to the idea of transparency, that should be a policy that's for all and not for one particular poll and one particular survey. Yeah, why don't we do this one at a time? Because I think this is what, okay. This is the one that I was clearest on, the other I have more questions.
Way better than any poll.
Okay, great. So I think that makes, and I think that makes a ton of sense. I don't have any issue with that. I think it's the public should know what's going on, and we'd already posted it anyway. And if the CEO wants to ask for a report, more power to it. Okay, so that was my first one. I think the other, I just had more questions. I think for council, and then some kind of thoughts that weren't quite as cooked up. So I wanted to kind of begin with recommendation 3, that because it has the presentations coming in September, but I know one of the things that we talked a lot about before was how we need to be really careful in talking about any measures going to the voters, because we don't want to inadvertently engage in electioneering or accidentally engage in communications that would be a violation of the PPC. So I just wanted to get some guidance from County Council on any risks or considerations on the timing, given that we're within 90 days of an election.
Thank you, Chair Wasserman, for the question. In terms of the discussion point, there's no legal prohibition to having a discussion about development of the ballot measure or communications that went into the development of that measure with contractors. Those are all legitimate governmental activities that can be discussed. I think the challenge could be just the scope of the discussion surrounding that information. If there's any communications that could be viewed as advocacy or something that goes beyond information. Those communications could present an issue with, because the election is essentially open at that point in time, the ballot measure has gone forward. So there just would need to be some additional concern about making sure that there wasn't communication that could be deemed to be advocacy, timing, scope, the tenor of the conversation. All of these have sort of played out in other FPPC opinions as to determine whether there could be a violation, and so that would be a flag to be aware of if this conversation were to take place prior to the election.
So it's not, so we legally could have a presentation, but there's risks based on what was said and the timing was said because it's within 90 days.
Depending on what is said, again, I don't know what the conversation would be. I don't know the scope of what could be discussed in that conversation. It just depends again how the facts may be characterized, those kind of issues, depending on where the discussion goes, could present some risk for a violation of the rules.
Madam Chair, recommendation for it was said no disclosures that would otherwise be prohibited by law. Now, I can't control what everyone else says, but I don't believe that there's a violation. The board's in trouble, the individual's in trouble. For example, if I were to say something that was illegal, like boat trading, and being an offer on the skies, I'd be held. The board would be held. So I think it's just important that we stay in our lanes and have them present in their lane and not talk about how this portion is better for the county, and that's why you should vote for it. But saying, when we looked at all the things, the public said this was most important to them. Perfectly legal, perfectly reasonable. Please correct me if I'm misspoken. But these are the types of questions that we've been fielding. Had we had not canceled meetings, I would have brought this up sooner. I didn't want to have it this late. We still get calls. I want to put it to bed. And I think that people have a right to know. And I think that any of those questions, and we've heard from people who have spoken, all sorts of conspiracy thoughts and innuendos. Let's just put it to bed. Let's just be transparent. Let's let them present what they learned so that we can better serve our constituents. And I would caution all of you, if you don't feel that you can stay in your lane and not say something that's going to get you in trouble, then walk out. As long as we don't lose a court.
I mean, I'll be honest, that gives me a lot of pause, like the notion that we could be creating a discussion forum that you could say one wrong word or three wrong words in the middle of a conversation, and it could then trigger an FPPC investigation. I think that is not an environment that's conducive to like a good exchange of ideas. Well, let me finish what I'm saying. I think from my point of view, and there's kind of two approaches. Either one would address these concerns for me. Is either one would be to have some kind of report back that is sent to a report back instead of a return back, or am I saying it wrong? Is it a return back instead of a report back? So it's not a presentation where we're all sitting here talking, but it's instead like a report that's posted publicly and sent to all the supervisors, but doesn't create like a dialogue moment. I think that could satisfy the need for public transparency. Or if we feel like we all need to sit here and talk about it, then I think it has to be after the election. So either one I would be fine with. Either sending this information in some format instead of it coming to the board for a conversation, but posting the information, or us bringing it back after the election. But I think bringing it to the board, it creates, in my opinion, too much risk. So if you'd be open and take either of those.
Are you not confident in your own ability not to violate the law?
I am not confident in the ability.
If I'm confident that I'm not going to violate the law with my questions or my constituents' questions.
This is not about whether the law is violated. It's about whether it creates an opportunity for a case to be brought. You know, you could be well within we've created a forum in which we're talking and saying things, and someone could then make an FPPC complaint, even though ultimately you're found to have not done anything wrong. So I want to be clear, right? Like, the law is a long process, and you could do nothing wrong. But we are creating, I think it's a huge risk to create a forum where we're essentially saying, okay, now there could be tons of FPC complaints filed, or one FPPC complaint, and for what end? Like, why do we need to do that if you can share the information in a way that doesn't create that legal risk? It could either be sent back to us without us it being presented in a conversational format, or if you feel like time is of the essence, or if you feel like the more important piece of this is having a robust public conversation in front of the board, then I think we should do it when we're not all sitting here on pins and needles, terrified that like one single word could be misconstrued. So I would take either one, either like send it back without a presentation to the board, or a board presentation after the third. If I was going to choose, I would probably say a board presentation after the third, because I think there's a lot of interesting information that's like worth a board discussion, especially in the bucket of work that the Sustainable Fiscal Subcommittee is doing. I think there's a real value to coming back to the board and having a discussion about that, because that's work that the Sustainable Fiscal Subcommittee is still doing. That I would be my preference, but I would say to me either one. I think the report back to the return to the board and having a board discussion before the election is what feels like a problem.
So, both those solutions don't solve the transparency issue that I'm facing. So, as far as the FPPC goes, every day we get tons of public records requests, and we slow roll those, we've been sued over it. You can't stop people who want to file something. Somebody wanted to file.
We're not talking about public records, we're talking about
No,
FPPC.
the point though is, we don't change our behavior for fear of lawsuits against us on things that have no merit. And having done some of the research, does FPPC have oversight over us? We're over 3 million, they only do 2 million. Because that's the reason why we're creating our own ethics committee, because we don't fall under that FPPC. And when I looked to see if we could fall under that FPPC, we were prohibited by law because they don't do more than 2 million people. We're past that considerably. So I get that people still continue to file that stuff, but they could file it anyway. They could make any. We all know people that file as a way of making a living. And so I'm not worried about that. What I'm more worried about is putting to bed any conspiracy theories that are out there and how things were mismanaged and misdone. And the timeliness of it is important. Had we not canceled our board meeting, we would have addressed it sooner. But because we canceled our board meeting, this has gotten delayed. How about we do a middle ground? How about we simply pass our questions to our council, and he reads the ones that are appropriate and sends back ones that's too close to the edge and sends it back to us. And that way we can still have the robust, we can still have the public input, and the people that are hounding my office will have an opportunity to come here, say their piece, and have their questions answered. I just think that we need to be absolutely transparent. I think when people are looking from the outside in, it looks like it may not be as crystal clear as it should be. And
can you clarify for me though, Superintendent Anderson? We're talking about a couple different things, right? We're talking about the legislative research my office did that I've already shared and it's already public. And then we're talking, and that's one piece of this. And then we're talking about the work the Sustainable Fiscal Planning Subcommittee has done and is continuing to do that's not yet complete and is not relevant for this, So what are you, when you're saying folks are hounding your office, is it about the work my office did on my legislative research?
It's on all of it. We're just getting it's all random stuff. And I don't want to be in the position of having
Well, let me say this, I did hear someone
I'd rather
say.
do it sooner rather than later, after the fact's not gonna be, I'm still gonna get pounded between now and the election.
Well, I did hear
I'd
someone
rather
say
do it
something,
sooner.
they wanted, just to build on what your point, is that you're getting hounded by all sorts of random stuff. One person came here today talking about a different subcommittee, right, which wasn't the Sustainable Fiscal Planning Subcommittee, it was the Social Safety
Well, I
Net
thought they were
Subcommittee.
I think that's great.
So, I mean, I'm trying to get to like a coherent point here, just to be clear, like, I think we're on agreement on number one, maybe we can hold for a second on number 3 and go back to number 2. Number 2 says direct the Sustainable Fiscal Planning Committee to engage Iowa Public Affairs to present to the board on the body of work conducted to develop the revenue management, petitional revenue budget, blah, blah. I mean, shouldn't we just direct all the subcommittees at some point to come back as soon as possible with presentations from all of the consultants?
Ours are all posted, so.
But that, I just said, yes, I hear you, but you just said that posting doesn't seem to be good enough for you.
No,
I just suggested
the
you post.
questions, so when you read the polling, it doesn't answer the questions of the methodology or the thought or any of those things, any of those questions. It just tells you what the outcome is, but it doesn't tell you how it was created. And in ours, you see the whole interaction, so you know exactly how all of it's created. I'm willing to accept your idea of the report back and us submitting questions prior and getting that going right now.
Sorry, I'm not understanding what you're saying.
Well, what were the 2 choices you gave us?
I
One
said
after the election and one sooner.
Yeah, I said, like, look, I think there's 2 possibilities here. One is we have a big, robust discussion after the election, so we're not worrying and sitting on pins and needles and worrying that one word is wrong, and we can all really talk and not, and we all say sorts of things that maybe you wouldn't say if you're trying to be careful, and I think there's a value to that, and value to have a robust discussion. I think we're gonna have a better conversation if it's post-election. Or, I'm not comfortable with having that kind of robust discussion pre-election. I think there's too many legal risks. Instead, we ask them to submit a report and post that report publicly and send it to all our board offices. I mean, tell me the right term, is it the report back, as opposed to the return back, and do that before the election.
Add a Q&A portion to it, so in the report they're answering the questions of the constituents.
They wouldn't come here to do it publicly, but we could send them the questions ahead of time, send it to Ebony, and then
As part
she
of the
could.
report back.
I would be fine with that. Yeah, like we could all send our questions to Ebony ahead of time, and she could share those questions with the consultants. That would be fine for me. I think I'm just trying to prevent like us all sitting here and not being able to really talk because we're worried about some frivolous litigations. That is fine. I don't know, maybe I could give David some thoughts and moments to think about how we would do that.
In terms of facilitating the questions.
I think the question being, like what we're talking about, is instead of having the consultants come and present to the board, instead we would have them write a report and send it to board offices. And then we would be able to give Ebony questions to ask the consultants that they could then include in the report they send to board offices.
I think that the discussion piece is, when you eliminate that, you sort of eliminate the risk. So if there are questions presented in advance that can be submitted to the consultants and be part of the report back, then that eliminates that risk.
Okay.
If we did have them report here though, and we did submit questions to you, wouldn't we have the same filter?
If the questions were submitted to me, but there was no discussion, is that correct?
No, the questions that were not in the gray, you simply ask. We still have the discussion, but our questions the concern is during the discussion, that's when we're going to get in trouble.
I think that's the concern, is the discussion.
Oh,
I'm not
yeah.
concerned about the questions that are asked.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's what I keep saying, is that we discuss and get in trouble. So I'm trying to make sure we don't do. Do you want to try that, Andrew? We'll do. Okay. So I think basically the idea is taking number 3. Okay, yes, I see you, Supervisor Desmond, but we're trying to get somewhere.
Are you pulling stuff out?
I think, just to be clear for Andrew, and then we'll go to Supervisor Desmond, Andrew's trying to draft something that basically says that instead of coming back to the board, with the presentation, is that they would, that the clerk would, in consultation with county council, I guess, because that seems to be critical here, send questions, and ask for some kind of report back from the work that the consultants have done. And they'll get those questions from the board offices ahead of time, so that those can be shared with consultants. Okay. Supervisor Desmond.
Yeah, this is just awful watching this go back and forth. We should err on the side of transparency, just rip the Band-Aid off, and let if there was no wrongdoing, let that be shown. If there was, let that come out. But by waiting for an election to happen because it might change things one way or the other, I think is not a reason for us not to be as transparent as we possibly can, as soon as we can. This just looks like we're obscuring something. I don't know what it is, but that's just what it seems to be watching this whole conversation go on.
I have a question, Chair.
Please.
There's no one else.
Oh, Supervisor Anderson's in the queue, but he already spoke. So do you want to go ahead, Supervisor?
I'll speak after.
Okay, thank you. My question is, to address Supervisor Desmond's point, if this comes back in the format of a report that's emailed to us that has any and all questions from constituents they may have regarding the specific data, that would be made available, since it's being made available to us through our offices, and we would have the ability to share that with the public, correct?
Yeah.
Just like, you've been making available our work through the FDA, so would that address the concern? It's still gonna be public.
What I was going to say, if you recognize me,
Yeah, please go ahead.
is I agree with Jim. However, always try to be as pragmatic as possible, and I'm always open to yes. And I don't want to drag this out and make it any worse. I'm good with that. I'm willing to accept those amendments, and if you want to move forward to vote, I'm good with it. My first choice, though, would have been Jim's. I think that the more transparent we are, the better off we all are.
Let me turn, I know Andrew's still working, let me turn to the Vice Chair.
Just for clarification, the questions, we're going to set it up to where the questions will be answered and everything will be made available to the public. And that is not just through a BRA, that is actively initiating that availability. Right?
That's right.
Yeah, it's not just saying, okay, in some obscure way, now there's, memo that needs to be PRA, that is putting this in reports received or something like that.
That's, I think, the intent, but Andrew, why don't you put up what you got? I'm looking at it, I think it's not quite there, it's not 100% what I think it's gonna need to be actionable, but we're like halfway there. What else would you need? She's writing me notes over here, and I said, just say it out loud.
Thank you, Chair. What I would appreciate having in terms of clarity and the board's direction is specific timelines in which we would like to receive those questions from your offices, as well as the timeline for receiving the report back, in which we'd like to see that filed, and it will be filed in communications.
So the two questions I've been asked is submit questions by X date to CAO and report back by Y date. So today's August 19th. So when does everyone give their questions to Evan by? Let me pause. Vice Chair, did you have a thought?
I'm just saying, y'all go ahead and choose, because just go ahead and choose.
Is your question came up by hand? Are these questions and responses going to be made available to the public, or is it just going to be report back to our offices?
Go ahead, Vice Chair.
That was my question, and no, they will be in communications received. So they would be on our agenda. They would not be just where it comes just to us and then we're expecting the public to know in PRA. They will be made public for people to go and review it.
And I just prefer doing things in public as opposed to backdoor. Thanks.
Let me just pause. I want to make sure, I think that, I think we're all, let me just say this. We just all voted in favor of item 14 yesterday, which was all about ensuring that we have, a lot of transparent processes and good guardrails around community surveys and sharing that information for the public. I think we all put a lot of work into developing that. I want to, recognize Supervisor Anderson had brought that forward, idea forward initially, and y'all jumped on board, and it was passed unanimously. So I just want to pause, and I want to make sure, that folks get a chance to contribute. So let's just slow down. There's one other piece I wanted to raise, and then we can kind of circle back to this amendment.
Okay.
Because I want to make sure we're kind of accomplishing, because I think we're all committed to the transparency piece. And that feels very clear to me that everybody here is really focused on transparency and accountability. It's a question of how we do that. I think circling back was on recommendation 4, it says recommendations 1 through 3 shall not require disclosure of any information that is otherwise prohibited by law. I'm wondering what that means. This is a question for Damon. Is there information that there would be reasons that you wouldn't disclose, because it's pre-deliberative or it might be sensitive or something, that would still be disclosed the way that item 4 is written? Does that question make sense? Is there information that is not prohibited by law from being disclosed, but that the county might have an important interest in because it's pre-deliberative, or it might be misleading to the public? And I just want to better understand the scope of 4, because this is something I feel like we talk about a lot.
Sure. There would be pre-deliberative privileges that would attach to some of the communications. Most of the contractors are aware of what that information is and would know not to disclose that information. But that would be one bucket of information. There could be other exemptions I'm not aware of presently, but I think the language was intended to capture certainly the pre-deliberative privilege that would attach to those discussions.
Sorry, I'm still not following. So if it's pre-deliberative, would it be disclosed or would it not be disclosed?
It shouldn't be disclosed.
It what?
It should not be disclosed.
It should not be disclosed. Okay, that's helpful. Okay, so that was my major question. So do you want to just take a moment? Anyone have thoughts on this? By X date, compile a report, drafting Y date, or do you want to take a totally different direction here?
So I was thinking, perhaps we got the questions in by the 28th. Can we get the public hearing a little bit easier for me just to notify people to show up? So we're going to have to go back and notify people to resend their questions to us or any additional questions. I'm thinking we can get that done by the 28th. And I want to be fair to those organizations. Do you think 2 weeks would be appropriate so they came back by the 11th or the following Monday to answer them? Because I think that these are not going to be so complicated. They're going to either know about how they formulated questions or not.
I don't know. I think that's an admin question. I don't even know the scope of the contracts. Would you need to have a contract updated to require them to? I don't know if that's an admin question.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Supervisor Anderson. I think you've identified both that it's going to be subject to the scope and volume of the questions as to whether or not the contractor will be able to be responsive within the time periods that we define. If in the event I found that they were not able to in either one or multiple instances, of course, we would communicate that to your board to make sure that you were aware. We can set some parameters, as you mentioned, maybe the 15th, for example, as
on a Wednesday, would just simply ask, which day of the week did you think, to the best of your memory. So, my idea is we may have 100 questions. There may only be 9 questions that are uniquely different. So that's why I need a little extra time to make sure we can crunch it down. It's not fair to ask these vendors, answer 100 questions of which 90 are really similar.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Through the chair, if I could just ask her, so clarifying that you would receive questions from you all based on the input that you all received from your stakeholders by August 28th, is I think the date that I heard. And we would submit those questions to the consultants and compile a report back no sooner than September 15th.
It says no sooner, but can we have an end date so we actually know what we get it this year?
Fair. What would be your end date?
Through the chair, what I heard in terms of the board discussion is that there's a desire to have this in advance of the actual election. There was some discussion about post-election, but what I think I heard from the motion maker was in advance.
Yes, please.
Yes, so certainly prior to the election, at least 30 days prior to.
How about September 30th? Because it's a week window.
That's it.
Okay.
And again, like I said, if there's something that comes up as we're working with the consultant.
Sure, of course.
Thank you.
So this would be a replacement for free, essentially.
I'm good to go if you are.
Supervisor Gary, you're very thoughtful. Thoughts? Good. And we know where Supervisor Dustin's not. Supervisor, Vice Chair Montgomery Steph, our attorney. Thoughts?
I do have a question.
Okay.
So, Joel, or Supervisor Anderson, so is it, I'm trying to figure out what it is. Basically, what we're asking for is that we get the survey and the polling that any office has done legislative research. So really, we're just going to get the survey and the polling. Is that what you're...
No.
That's what it reads.
Well, we're going to submit questions, so we're going to get the questions answered.
So you're going to have more questions than what... So I guess I'm really not sure what I'm voting on, I guess. But it says... Well, I don't see anything in here that the questions are going to be submitted and answered. I guess go ahead and look at the second one. Receive questions from the board on this. All right. Because the first paragraph, it says surveys and polls. So what is it? What is it that you don't want? I get that the questions are different, but what is it you're after?
Well, there's some confusion as to whether we've gotten everything and we've seen everything. So I'm being inundated with questions about whether we're being transparent or not, whether the board's being transparent. I just want to put it to bed.
So has the surveys and the polling been released? Is that already out there?
Yes.
Survey questions?
Yes.
Okay. So you got all right. Sorry, just...
Okay. We're all trying to be as transparent as possible.
All right.
So we have a motion and a second then, and hopefully nobody changed their mind when we walk out of here and has better ideas than we came up with. But this is a very transparent policy-making process.
Good news is we can always come back and we discuss it and change it. If we have a better idea.
Okay. Sounds good.
Just to be clear for the record, we have the 2 recommendations before you today are the actions the board would be taking. None of the other recommendations would be included, just to get you that on the screen.
And also the 4.
Recommendation 4.
I was missing.
That would describe recommendations. We'll reword that to indicate that the report shall not disclose any information that's otherwise prohibited by law.
Please go ahead, Councilor.
We probably would want to include some additional language that specifically describes the information
could we just say something really simple that just says, shall not regard of any measurement deemed by county council as pre-deliberative or otherwise prohibited by law? Just keep it simple. That's better.
We're gonna email, the language to Andrew.
You're missing a verb. It's. I'm okay with that if my colleague is. Okay. Okay. Are we supposed to wait? Okay. Okay, I'm fine. I don't care. I mean, whatever you recommend, but I just don't want us to, I just want to make sure we're disclosing everything we can and not breaking the law. That's my goal here.
Madam Chair?
Yep.
If we have no later than September 30th, if we have no later than, do we need September 15th? If they want to give it to us the next day,
Yeah.
let's just let them do it.
Sounds good. I don't care. Yeah. Okay. Great. We have a motion and a second. Please vote.
Chair Lawson, remember that motion passes with Supervisor Desmond voting no, all other supervisors being present and voting aye.
Okay, thank you, thank you. Gosh, on our theme here, seem to be on a theme. This is my item. This is item 30, restricting post-employment lobbying and barring county officials from insider trading and betting platforms like Kalshi and Play Market. I am tired from that discussion, so let's start with public comments and then we can go to board discussion.
Thank you, Chair Lawson Raymer. We have 10 requests to speak on this item, 1 in person, and 9 requesting to speak by phone. Also note for the record that we received 3 comments, all in support of this item. For any individuals that requested to speak on item 30 by phone, please dial in the conference line using the instructions that were provided to you. We'll begin with the in-person speaker, elected by Fort Allegedly Audra. You'll have 1 minute to address the board since there are 10 more speakers on the side.
Talk about robust. It's so interesting watching that. I feel like watching somebody buying an ADU and having to do an HOA with the person that they bought the home from. I'm wondering how you're going to enforce this. You're going to have people tracking and tracing people once they leave employment. Damon, are you going to be in charge of this? Are you going to be surveilling people that have once worked here? Are you going to target certain people? Or is it just everyone? Tara?
Audra, go ahead. You can continue for a public comment.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate your permission to do that. I was going to ask, I was wondering if I could go to the bathroom later. Is that okay if I need a permission slip? Are you going to surveil it? You guys have been doing PCR tests on poop. I'll bring it back for you so you guys can put it in a cup and dip the PCR test in there. That'll be exciting. Then you can track and trace my movements. You know what I mean? Yeah, I'm sure this is going to be enforced. We should be looking at you guys because you're doing it right now.
Thank you. We'll now hear from those that requested to speak by phone. We will begin with our first caller. then I'll call others.
Good afternoon, Board of Supervisors. That was a tiny bit confusing. Thank you for the item 30 that we're going to look at, and of course I support the idea of a 2-year ban. And I think it's all part of the transparency that you all say that you want. And now I understand 29, it would have been nice to have seen what you actually voted on for us to discuss instead of changing it substantially. And now we didn't get to participate on the new item. I don't know if that's appropriate in the way that you handled 29, but we do appreciate your commitment, and we do appreciate that when you spend money, county money, that's our money, it is useful for us. I'm speaking to 29, I guess. It's just useful for us to know that it's being spent and what it's being spent on and why it's being spent. Would have been nice to have all this information for 29, but I do appreciate Board of Supervisors who bring it to our attention so that we can more effectively interact and understand our role in relation.
Thank you. There's the next caller.
Paul Bowles here. I don't know what the phone interruption was, but I'm glad I'm back. Anyways, item number 30 sounds reasonable. Hopefully no New York State Committee or employees just for this, because we already, get taxed at the wazoo. Please also restrict excessive corporate donations which do not represent the community and have a similar corrupting influence. The board is kind of corrupt in accepting all sorts of donations from corporations, and then they ignore the people. It's a round robin. I really...
Thank you. On to the next caller.
It's crazy to me that I was right so many years ago about the ACLU influencing basically our county. And I wonder how many other ACLU ex-lawyers or ex-legal teams are now supervisors or even higher positions. We want transparency, and obviously you guys are going to receive it, and you do realize that something is up. I heard it in your guys' voice. I heard you guys recognize the fact that the shenanigans is up. People are aware of your crap. And people are starting to investigate you. Ripping the Band-Aid off just real quick, real fast before we go ahead and vote to give you more power, just to find out later that we should have never done that would be just flat out stupid. I understand that you're an ex-lawyer for the ACLU and they...
Thank you. I'll hear from the next caller.
A truth polls and Polymarket is just the beginning, but here's proof that Tara is always a hypocrite.
I know that very well. So we like being up to really good vibes. Very good vibes, which is really important. I've actually just reading an article about an astrologist who's been making a killing in the stock market. So,
yeah, is that your inspiration? You're a veteran too. We know this is yet another political attack on patriots. You just happen to bet on what has become obvious plans to destroy the country. Everyone should be entitled to at least make a few bucks while we're on the downfall. I mean, if terrorist friend Nancy Pelosi is allowed to rake in millions of illegal stock trading, why can't the good guys? Is that because progressive communists are hypocrite fascists who repress the rights of others? Rhetorical question. And to reference Pelosi's nephew, Newsom is hilarious when his dumb front wife is profiting off his dirty diaper deal with her NGO fraud. And Terry, nobody wants to hear your 30-minute free viewings of the diet, which just give off creepy, gross vibes. Doesn't even hear the beat.
And we'll get from the next caller.
Consuelo. Yeah, really disappointing to not be able to listen to the phone calls. You guys obviously can't even get the phone thing right. And yeah, it was like, ironically, talking about transparency, you guys are anything but. Yeah, so good to know that our roles are actually to be quiet, don't ask questions, and pay your taxes. That's a joke.
Thank you. And Chair Losserino, that concludes public comment.
Okay, thank you all very much. I'll just make a couple opening remarks. Had a long couple days, so I'll keep it short. I think we have spent the last many months very focused as a board on how do we really make county government work better for the people that we're here to serve and that government is here to serve. And this is one more item in that vein that really tries to ensure that government is accountable to voters and that we, as not just elected officials, but also all the senior leadership that works here at the county, is going towards serving the public, and that public interest comes first. So this item has two parts. The first is extending the post-employment lobbying restriction to 2 years. And the second, which I think is really interesting, and is really trying to get ahead of the curve on some of the dangers we're seeing emerge in other places, is barring county officials from consider trading and betting on futures market platforms like Kalshi and Polymarket. Right now, we don't have any kind of ordinances prohibiting gambling with insider information on prediction markets, and this is definitely becoming a bigger problem. We haven't seen any instances of this happening here in the county, thank goodness. But I always think it's better to have rules in place before something goes sideways instead of putting rules in place after things go wrong. We've started to see some of this emerging at the federal level. An Army soldier was charged in April for making more than $400,000 on Polymarket, betting on U.S. military actions using classified information. And then the most interesting one, most recent interesting example of this was the teleprompter operator who used his knowledge of what Trump was going to say in the State of the country, State of the Union, to make about $100,000 on prediction markets, which of course he knew what was going to be in the speech because he was the teleprompter operator. This does not seem right. So this is a very broad, very bad, where is this? Very bad. You better turn. Is that better? A little better? People still hear me? Okay. This board letter would give broad latitude to staff and to legal counsel to come up with guidelines that make sense to really figure out which employees should be covered. Probably not everybody. We kind of got to think about what's the right level of seniority, so that all that work needs to be done. But this just gets the ball rolling and comes back with options. So that I'd like to make a motion. Anyone has any comments? Please, Supervisor Geary.
Thank you. I'm happy to second. I think that, the examples you gave, those are the ones we know. Obviously, it's completely unacceptable, and I agree that we should be proactive rather than reactive, and, implement this policy is good governance, so I support it, and I'm happy to second.
Thank you. Any other comments? Before the ordinance goes into effect?
Wait, before it goes into effect.
Maybe we should make it retroactive. Okay, we have a motion on the floor in a second. Please vote.
And Chair Losserino, that motion passes unanimously with all supervisors who are present voting aye.
What?
Wow. Okay.
Supervisors. My name is Mark Remedic, and I'm joined by Assistant Director of Behavioral Health Services. And today we're providing an update on estimated project budget and establishing additional appropriations for the county's new behavioral health wellness campus. This action also requests confirmation of the project's statutory CEQA exemption. The behavioral health wellness campus will be developed in the Midway District on Roseanne Street, adjacent to the existing San Diego Psychiatric Hospital. It is the site of a former health services complex, slated for demolition this coming spring. The wellness campus will occupy about 8 acres of roughly 12-acre property. The campus in total is anticipated to result in approximately 120,000 square feet of new space to support people with behavioral health conditions. I'll now pass on to Aurora to discuss the program in details.
Thank you, Marco. The campus will add 210 new treatment slots and beds across 3 new buildings. The vision for the Behavioral Health Wellness Campus is to develop an integrated model of care where adults can seamlessly transition across mental health and substance use treatment services and supports. It will also offer outdoor community spaces, landscaping, and areas of respite designed to encourage members and staff to engage in social connection and outdoor therapeutic activities. Development of the campus also aligns with the capacity goals we outlined in our mental health and substance use disorder optimal care pathways models, as well as state initiatives such as Senate Bill 43, Proposition 36, and the CARE Act program. The Behavioral Health Wellness Campus will provide 5 distinct services for adults. First, there will be a 20 recliner crisis stabilization unit, or CSU, which will provide immediate short-term care for people experiencing a behavioral health crisis for up to 24 hours. Second, a 40-bed mental health rehabilitation center will support members with the most challenging needs, allowing them to transition from hospital settings, including our own psychiatric hospital, to a more appropriate level of care. Third, a 30-bed social rehabilitation facility will offer intensive, short-term care and peer-based support in a recovery-oriented setting, providing both diversion from hospitalization and non-medical transitional placement for adults being discharged from a hospital. Next, an adult residential substance use program, inclusive of withdrawal management, will include 70 beds that will provide a safe, supportive environment for adults to live while they receive substance use treatment. And lastly, an outpatient community mental health clinic will add 15 new treatment slots to support members in managing their symptoms long-term, including co-occurring conditions. We anticipate serving over 22,000 people each year within this campus. Services will be funded through an array of funding sources, including Medi-Cal, the Behavioral Health Services Act, and Behavioral Health Realignment. The total project budget is $240 million, comprised of state grant funds, program revenue, and bond financing. Behavioral Health Services was awarded $99.5 million in grant funding through the State Behavioral Health Continuum Infrastructure Program, or BEACHIP. The BEACHIP grant funds must be spent within 5 years of signing the program funding agreement. We have also identified $69.5 million in other behavioral health funding to support the project, which includes a combination of opioid settlement funds, behavioral health impact funds, general purpose revenue from the ARPA loss revenue strategy, behavioral health realignment, and patient care revenue. The remaining $71 million of funding will come through bond funding, which will get us to a $240 million project budget. The debt service will be paid for by behavioral health program revenue. Behavioral health services will cover the ongoing debt financing costs. Overall, this diversified funding strategy brings together state investment and program revenue to help leverage state grant funds. Moving this project forward quickly is critical to align with the BEACHIP grant timeline. I'll now hand it back to Marco to provide details on the campus's design and construction.
Thanks, Laura. The campus will be delivered using a progressive design build or PDD method, in which the county selects a single qualified team to both design and construct the facility. This team is chosen based on qualifications and collaborates closely with the county throughout the design to ensure the project meets our needs and remains financially achievable. PDP is well suited for a project of this scale, complexity, and timeline, while preserving county ownership, governance, and policy control. We anticipate strong interest from the design and construction industry. This timeline illustrates the major milestones needed to deliver the Behavioral Health Wellness Campus and meet the state's required completion date of around August of 31. While construction is a significant portion of the timeline shown here in green, the first year is dedicated to pre-construction, which includes procurement, design progression, permitting, and coordination. The demolition of the former health services complex on the project site will occur in the spring of 2027, with the site turnover to the builder at the start of 28. Overall, the schedule reflects a disciplined and achievable path forward, one that balances thorough planning and design with the urgency required to preserve the county's $99.5 million state investment. Today's requested actions will initiate the formal procurement process to deliver the wellness campus. First, we ask the board to confirm that the procurement action is not a SEQA project and that the wellness campus qualifies for the statutory SEQA exemption provided for under the Behavioral Health Continuing Infrastructure Program legislation. Next, we ask the board to direct the Director of General Services and the Director of Behavioral Health Services to continue their work on the development and construction of wellness campus in compliance with all laws and beach requirements. And lastly, we ask the board to establish additional appropriations of $22.3 million in the BHWC capital project account to include $2.9 million in opioid settlement funds, $15.6 in beach grant funds, and $3.8 in behavioral health and Atlantic funds. This will bring the current appropriation up to $35 million, which will cover the pre-construction portion of the development. These actions position the county to begin procurement immediately, maintain eligibility for the state's grant, and keep the project on schedule for completion by the summer of 31. Staff respectfully request approval of these recommendations and is available now to answer your questions.
Okay, any questions? First of all, I just want to say amazing. This is great. This is just, I'm over the moon. This is really incredible. Can't believe we won the money. $100 million from the state, that's huge. And I think it does reflect the work we've been doing as the board and as the county and, all hands on deck for the last 6 years to really try to move the needle on our behavioral health strategy, and we came up with a vision of what we needed for our community that was compelling enough to rise to the top of the heap in the statewide competition, and we're willing to put our own skin in the game to leverage those resources, but it's also really the vision and leadership around the care before crisis model that I think has allowed us to be in a position to build this campus. So good work to all. This is amazing. I'm happy to move the item and second. So we have a motion and a second, and I'd love to turn to public comment.
Thank you, Chair Lost Marina. We have 10 requests to speak on this item. 1 in person and 9 requesting to speak by phone. Also note for the record that we received 2 e-comments. One of those was in opposition. For any individuals that requested to speak on item 31 by phone, please dial into the conference line using the instructions provided to you. Actually, by Florida Legislative Authority, you'll have 1 minute to address the board.
Yeah, there's not going to be 10 people. This has been interesting to watch this come into play. As you talked about for years, the anticipated need for behavioral health workers, 19,500 of them when there was 19,000 employees. Having you guys sit here and talk about changing our behaviors, and I've had the opportunity to go into these courts and observe them, and it's very disturbing to see what happens, because these people are totally sedated, and there's people determining whether or not they can be restored, whether or not it's in the interest of justice to restore these individuals. And sometimes they're unrestorable, you just throw them back out onto the street because they've exercised the entire program. So it's just like stuff that happens up here. There's policies and procedures that take place, and it's basically keeping people in this perpetual state of being drugged up so they can never go back into society and be productive. So it's extremely disturbing when you guys are doing this to people and you talk about an anticipated need like you knew that you were going to fill that need.
Thank you.
for those who request to speak by phone. We will begin with our first caller.
Although the cost for this project has risen by 30 million to 240 million since May. I mean, just a few months. And this is for additional improvements only, not inflation. Wonder what the final will be. The state's contribution money is 99.5 million. The county's share would now be 22.3 mil plus 12.7 mil that's already appropriated. Not sure where the other 105 mil would come from, but I sure hope that the cost doesn't go up by 30 mil every 3 months. And funding includes unreliable things like patient care revenue, although illegal things like ARPA revenue is supposed to be first of it.
Thank you. We'll hear from the next caller.
Good afternoon, Board of Supervisors. Thank you for this item. Thank you for your attention to behavioral health needs. This is a campus I know well because the county has cited other programs there. Many years ago, when I was a social worker and I was meeting with people who work in alcohol and drug prevention, we held our meetings over on that campus area. Before that, it was the building Whitefront, very much like a Costco, but sort of went out of business where Costco flourished. Nevertheless, thank you for your attention to this. It will assist us in what the federal government wants to accomplish, which is provide behavioral health care first and then work with housing, which only works well if there are behavioral health programs. And so this is a good start understanding how important that is to helping our homeless become housed and those who have other issues that are keeping them from being successful, having mental health wellness opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you. Hear from the next caller.
Truth, tear it down to like there's a new county hotel for you to stay at. This is all about Medicare welfare fraud and benefiting the communist campaign funders like UCSD, Kaiser, and Rady. The county facility in Rosecrans is where all the drug addicts gather. And that's because the county doesn't actually help anyone get clean. They just prescribe different drugs. Then the addicts walk on over to the Old Town trolley station to get Metro PCS, Obama welfare phones, and then hop onto the welfare train to commit more crimes. As the point, Loma be ever consulted about this? Of course not, just like Limit Grove wasn't consulted with Troy Street Project. County doesn't care, they know exactly what evils they perpetrate. So there's another $250 million in Medicare fraud, just because this board allowed this complex to go unrenovated for decades. And especially known using $2.9 million in settlement funds if the county can allow more opioids to be prescribed. As far as who needs these camps, Sarah, oftentimes you got in the bar, gotten drunk, and waved your badge around. Whoa, might want to plead the fifth on that and VHS nut job. Thank you.
Thank you. On to the next caller.
Monday. Okay, so behavioral health is a big business. That's also very telling of how sick a system really is. As government, like a cancer grows bigger and bigger, it's no coincidence that behavioral health too grows. And it's a telltale sign of how humanity was not intended to live in such a sick, tightly controlled manner. Again, it's supply and demand. There's no incentive in healing people. Keep them medicated and under the thumb of Big Daddy government. It's a cash cow. Again, there's no incentive in healing people. Keep them medicated and under control and under the thumb of Big Daddy government. It's a cash cow. Again, there's no incentive in healing people. Keep them medicated and under control and under the thumb of Big Daddy government. It's a cash cow. Again, there's no incentive in healing people. Keep them medicated and under control and under the thumb of Big Daddy government. It's a cash cow.
Yeah, we'll hear from the next caller.
Good afternoon. My name is Becky
Ashley Rath, and while I'm in support of expanding behavioral health facilities, I'm concerned about the decision made earlier to expand the marijuana industry, as it seems contradictory when we know marijuana increases the risk of mental health issues. The CDC is very clear that marijuana is not harmless. The CDC states that people who use marijuana are more likely to develop psychosis, including hallucinations, paranoia, and long-lasting mental health disorders, including schizophrenia. The CDC also reports that approximately 3 in 10 people who use marijuana develop cannabis use disorder. So if the county calculated the potential behavioral health costs associated with expanding access to high-potency marijuana, we are discussing a $240 million behavioral health wellness campus. Are we building enough capacity to meet the behavioral health needs that our existing population has? And have we evaluated whether expanding marijuana availability could increase demand for psychiatric care, substance use treatment?
Thank you. Here for the next caller.
Hi, Natalie Rashke here. The mental behavioral health that's going on as right now, a lot of it has to do with how long people have been out there being homeless. There is enough housing. Is it affordability or what the stress that we're putting on the public of becoming unhoused again? I'm watching a man deteriorate that takes care of his family and was taking care of his family before COVID, which created a homelessness issue. HUD and the federal government created this mental illness that they are trying to fix, and do we even have enough doctors that are qualified to work in these hospitals? Are we going to give them the mental health that they need to work in these mental hospitals or for this expansion? Is anyone going to be qualified enough to work? Thank you.
Thank you. And we'll hear from the final caller.
Respect is earned. And if you guys expect me to go ahead and treat you guys with respect, then you guys need to treat people with respect. You can't go ahead and demonize the president or the federal agents because you don't like the fact that they're removing the criminal element out of the city that the people want removed. We want some guardrails. You're not providing them. So what? I get pissed off at you for that, so then that gives you justification to throw me in this network that will go ahead and try to drug me out? Because I don't agree with you. And you're unwilling to go ahead and have a conversation about this. I mean, hell, you're turning your back on Andrea Ebbing and letting them kill her. And you're not willing to go ahead and take a look and see the medical care that she needs. You will not go ahead and make sure she gets under your care.
Thank you. And Chair Wasserman, that concludes our comments on this item.
Okay, thank you. Do anybody have any comments? Great, the motion is second, please go.
Chair Wasserman, that motion passes unanimously. All supervisors, being present.
Great, we now move on to item 32. Thank you, guys. Resolutions passed for program.
Before the public comment, I'd like to note that this item presented for consideration today seeks adoption of a resolution authorizing school districts within the county to borrow funds and approving the institution of this series 2026A St. Joseph County Schools Districts Trans Program on behalf of participating districts. The county has historically issued annual tax and revenue anticipation notes, or TRANS, on behalf of local school districts participating in the St. Joseph County School District Notes Program to help those school districts manage their cash flow needs. The repayment of these notes is the responsibility of participating school districts. At this time, there are anticipated to be up to 8 participating school districts borrowing an aggregate amount not to exceed $195,750,000. Subject to your questions, that includes the comments on the record. We have 9 individuals requesting to speak on this item, 1 in person and 8 requesting to speak by phone. We also received 2 e-comments, 1 in opposition and 1 neutral. For the individuals that requested to speak on item 32, About 2 minutes, you address the board.
I don't know that I would call this the trans program for children. Is that smart? I mean, we are transing kids in school. I mean, we're encouraging them to chop off their genitals at a very young age and put hormones into their bodies because that is equitable and safe and healthy. It's healthcare. Just like ripping a baby apart limb by limb is healthcare, right? It's good. I mean, like if I rip somebody apart limb by limb, I wonder if the police would accept that I'm saying it's healthcare. I'm just, they're just really not useful in life, so I just want to get rid of them. We should be defunding schools. They are indoctrination centers who sexualize children. We're teaching them about anal sex and incest, so it's like if they wanted to go sleep with their dad, they totally could. Those are the things that are being taught in schools, Tara. And I'm talking about funding, and I don't think that we need to...
Funding schools. Thank you. That is not pertinent to this topic.
Yes.
So
It's
this
tax
is
revenue.
the tax revenue anticipation note.
Yes.
So this is specifically about, it's not about expenditures, it's about revenues.
Yes.
So you can talk about revenue generation, but not about expenditures. Everything you've been talking about so far is about expenditures. So no.
You're kind of encroaching on my First Amendment by doing that.
So you can go ahead and let her speak again.
Right.
But
Thank
make
you
sure you're
for not encroaching on my First Amendment when I'm talking about money going to schools, right? They're going to borrow money where children are being indoctrinated and taught about anal sex, butt beads, things like that. Those are the things that children are learning in school.
Our money, when they borrow money and it goes to the school.
We'll now hear from David
What?
Nichols that requested to speak by phone. We'll start with our first caller.
You're just gonna cut me off. Seriously?
Trans is a kind of interesting abbreviation. Although a minor shortfall in school funds is to be expected, but we who are paying the interest on the bonds you'd be issuing should have better explanation of why these requests are so huge. Maybe it's to pay for all the trans operations, do you think? All the board limiter says is the school district may experience temporary cash flow shortage during the fiscal year due to a mismatch in the timing of the receipt of revenues. You heard that, receipt of revenues, mainly due to taxes and expenditures. This is pretty sketchy. Almost $2 million for what seem to be pretty regular expenses. Is there a way to get these requests down? I mean, Carlsbad wants 25 mil, Coronado wants 10 mil, Rosemont Union School District wants 20 mil, San Diego Unified School District wants 100 mil, San Diego Union High School District wants 20 mil, San Isidro School District wants 15 mil. Julie and I thank them for their reasonableness. They only want 750,000. But, after all these expenses, then there are their revenues. Where are they coming from? They're coming from us paying these.
Thank you. We'll hear from the next caller.
You know what's so crazy? So many of your different avenues of money and all that stuff correspond with the ACLU and the groups that they partner up with and the ones that they defend. It's kind of like a big criminal, organization running shit. And it makes sense for the fact that they defend the 1982 fraud that took place and any measures that tries to go in and investigate whether or not it's still happening today. They'll be the first ones to tell you, you better not say a word. Which explains why you went ahead and filed a restraining order instead of answering my question, Tara. And if you want to go and say it had nothing to do with you, then why are you trying to enforce it? Why is the board member trying to enforce it when I'm asking you guys to do your job? And look into it. I'm giving you credible information. And you're choosing to go ahead and silence me, much like you've done with Andrea Ebbing, which it was highlighting the fraud that has been found in Arizona, which equated out to $2.4 billion.
So as I had said earlier, regarding this item, this is an item regarding tax and revenue anticipation for school districts. So your comments, they did begin speaking about schools, but no longer are speaking about neither schools nor revenue. So you can go ahead and speak about tax and revenue anticipation notes as they pertain to county schools. If your comments are not on that topic, your time will be forfeited.
Absolutely. As I said, ACLU, which controls both you and Monica, both of you worked with them before you started doing the political atmosphere, where you pushed their agenda, and you're continuously doing it today.
That is not on topic. Do we have another speaker?
We do. We have 4 more speakers in the queue. Ms. Scholar. Ms. Scholar is Hector. Your device might be muted. And we'll come back to you. And Hector, go ahead. And we'll come back to Hector.
Hey, it's true. I'm like, if you can't have fun at the end, Tara, then what are we doing here? Because I'm trying to figure out what's on topic now. Expenditures, revenues, it's actually all relevant. So our tax dollars going down the drain for pure growth indoctrination of children. Because schools don't make revenue, or they shouldn't be making revenue. They should be teaching children. So this is very confusing. And it's interesting to come across the acronym TRAN, as we are trans. I don't even know at this point, because we watch this Scrubs County continue to try and transform everything into an unrecognizable hellhole canyon. So 195 million in debt sounds about same stuff, SOS. And what does this multi-million-dollar taxpayer from the status quo look like? Fancier buildings with fancier and fancier tax toys, but where children still can't read or write. Why is it that rather than getting expenditures revenues, these school districts have children where only 45% of them can read English, and I believe it's even less that can do basic math. I guess that's what you're counting on for your voters. Why are they being left ignorant? Why don't you guys care? Is it because it's easier for progressives to fool them with their lives? The county education board had an anti-American extremist promoting illegal alien criminal activity shown recently. You have Senator Unified, you're on the list. Under Richard Burr, it's one of the worst at corruption, deficits, and extremely low proficiencies at basic education. And their level of corruption, another note, is closely followed by Senate Speaker of District under arrogant union puppet Antonio Martinez, whose fellow arrogant union puppet, Manny, supports, of course. They just gave themselves huge raises despite a huge deficit. So with those math skills or lack thereof, I guess that means they went to public school too, in California. Or maybe that means they've been watching this county board who also has been financially running the county into the grave. So I do support defunding all expenditures, all revenue to all public indoctrination centers, including this county board, and I support Tina Ferraza for San Pedro School Board. Thank you.
Thank you.
Amen. I agree with previous speakers. Yeah, on topic. Just to further elaborate on the indoctrination, you pay tuition, check this out, to remove your intuition. A graduation is a gradual indoctrination. I got more. I'm becoming more convinced that those of us who struggle to listen at school were just instinctively tuning out the programming. I got more.
Please pause to do so.
I was educated once.
Please pause to do so. This is about revenue and not expenditures. Please keep your topics, your comments on topic.
Yeah. Okay, am I on pause?
Yes, please go ahead.
Am I on pause? Okay. Well, it's just, yeah. It's just contributing to the perpetuation of the little worker bees to like the Rockefeller system, keep them in schools under the indoctrination. Don't teach them how to overthrow their government, heaven forbid. There's people little worker bee slaves. That's truly all I have to say about this. But I have more I can read if you're not going to interrupt me, Sarah. Imagine if schools actually helped kids identify their strengths by exploring their talents from a young age and growing their skills over the 12 years instead of letting them all follow the same routine and leaving them confused and lost after graduation, and then they have to work for government. And you know you guys all did that. The little worker bees. Dorks. And then
Thank you. We'll hear from the next caller.
Natalie Rashke here. I have pulled my children from the school district because I don't want to be in this trap. And why do these school districts have to borrow so much money? I'm just so confused. And it is true. We neglect their minds of curiosity. This is what this money is going to go to. Critical thinking, conscious awareness of choices that they have. That we rush them through these schooling to give them a diploma and tell them, what do you want to be when you grow up? You follow these American dreams, you follow these rules, and you can have this American dream. Well, I did that. I took that bait, and here I am. I'm from the Muskogee Creek Nation, the first, not the second, not the third, not the fourth, not the fifth. The Muskogee Creek Nation, the first civilized, recognized tribe, if we can call this civilized. And yet, I don't have a place to live come November due to the federal government that grows trees, that indoctrinate our children. And that's why I pulled my kids from the San Diego Unified School District. Because I want them to understand that this is a trap. We're all in a trap. And when you guys sit up there and you keep moving forward, you're feeding this trap when we know this administration is doing dirty. They've done children dirty. And then we have to ask for these loans. These schools, if they really cared about these children, it wouldn't be a loan. It would be money given to the United States, these people that want to raise their children and have them become critical thinkers. But that's not what they're doing. And then everybody abides by the school district. And if you're potentially homeless and you have your school, and you're in the school district.
Thank you. Next caller.
Hi, Whitby. Thanks for the meeting today. I heard something of the work you were doing yesterday, and it's nice that you guys are back. I'm here too. I'm kind of listening in and out to the last parts of the meeting today. I just wanted to say hi. I'm here, I'm around, and good luck how you can be working on this item, and finding the differences between revenue and expenditures.
good luck in that effort, understanding differences and working through those differences. What you can do for substitutes for this item, I don't know. I'm hopeful things like the Patriot House,
Blair, it sounds like your cell phone is having a connection issue.
So I'm gonna stop now and break your time.
Thank you. And I'll go to the final caller.
Well, hi, Hector here. Hey, I wish you guys would go Zoom calls. I've been trying to call in for the last few hours, and I keep getting weird things on the phone. And I just got through the other lady called me. And so I have been trying to get in through the list, but a Zoom call would be a lot better. You wouldn't do your phone and just be on the internet and stuff. But I'm for the schools, but I'm for like school choice. I think you should give, as a taxpayer, 37 years for the county, I want to give reparations. How the kids have turned out. I want my money back. You know, come on. Paid all these taxes 37 years and this. Half the kids at 25 can't even add. 7 plus 5 plus 4 times 3. They don't even know what we're talking about. You know, it's ridiculous, man. We should give you guys, if you guys graduated college the last 20 years, you get a spelling test and a math test, see if you guys can add. Because it's ridiculous, man. So on the school bond, I don't know, bond it for school choice. So people can just educate their own kids and get paid for it instead of paying competition in the school system. But it's, I don't know, it's tough, man. Anyway, go to Zoom. It'd be a lot easier on everybody. Everyone's phone would work too. So for self-expression and stuff. Thanks a lot. Have a good day.
Thank you. Chair Wasserman, that concludes public comments.
I'd like to call a point of order.
Okay, thank you. We have, do we have a motion or a second? We have a Cheryl will die. Okay, thank you so much, Vice Chair. And we have a second from Chair Pro Tem. Any additional comments? Okay, we go. Okay. Thank you very much.
Motion passes unanimously. All supervisors, President, voting aye.
Sorry to jump in front of you, Andrew. Okay, I want to go backwards. Our colleague, Supervisor Anderson, was dealing with a fire at his house. Just very scary. And he missed voting on item 30. So he's wondering if there's any way for him to register a vote.
Can we reopen it?
So I think the lobby won. It was 4-0, so it was unanimous for all present, but it wasn't present. That there's fire. Jim is taking fast and hard to vote on the item.
That's not working. But it already passed, so you're in danger zone. You better submit that question to
The council. Okay, so I think procedurally the way we do this is one of the four of us can make a motion to reconsider. The motion to reconsider passes and we will vote against it. Okay, we have a motion and a second to reconsider. Please vote.
And Chair Wasserman, that motion passes unanimously with all supervisors, President, voting aye.
Okay, and I'll now move the item. And I think whoever wants, I think Supervisor Gary had seconded the first time. She wants to do so again, or anyone else? Yeah. Yep. Okay. Supervisor Chair Pro Tem Gary, motion second, please vote.
Chair Wasserman, that motion passes unanimously with all supervisors, President, voting aye.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. So now we go to item 6, which is Traffic Advisory Committee. We'll start with public comment.
For any individuals that requested to speak on item 6 on the land use legislative session agenda, please, by phone, please dial into the conference line using the instructions that were provided to you. We'll begin with the in-person speakers, selected by Board Cesar Javier, elected Audra. You'll have 2 minutes to address the board.
I'd like to call a point of order because you were just violating my rights, discriminating against me, letting everybody speak about expenditures and revenue and whatever they wanted to say, and you targeted me, which is an ethics complaint. I understand. I called a point of order.
That's not something that. Yes, I can. So, you can go ahead and speak on traffic advisory committee, item 6. If you have a concern about how the meeting was run, you can go ahead and do so. Okay, please continue.
I'm going to be happy to do so. Yeah, your traffic advisory committee, here we are. You're going to get more revenue because you're going to lower the speed limits so that you can go and give people tickets when there are plenty of other crimes that are being committed. And it's like, that's any way you guys can make money off the backs of people is absolutely ridiculous. And I feel like if we're concerned about, the environment and things like that, I mean, are you going to implement something for the bugs that get killed on the windshields of cars for an equitable, what are we going to do about that? Because we're saving gnat catchers and different things like that. I'm wondering when there's going to be equity for bugs that go on the windshield and splatter. They're always in the crosshairs. So, I mean, let's get people out of their cars a lot quicker, pull the Band-Aid off, just get people walking. Why don't we just ban cars? I mean, that's where we're going, right? We're changing people's behaviors so that they can get out of their vehicles so that we can save the planet. Isn't that the whole point of this? It's our climate action plan, right? So I'm wondering when we're going to have equity for the bugs that get killed on windshields. Is that going to be something you guys are going to implement? Is there no revenue in that? There could be. I mean, you could start counting bugs on people's cars and say that they owe you money for killing them. You know what I mean? For engaging in bugicide. You know what I mean? It's good. It's so sad because your baby doesn't even want to be near you, Tara. You know what I mean? You go outside and you don't even hold her. She's just sitting there with some nanny. Then you want to put her next to your tit. She's crying. Get me out of here. It's pretty sad.
We'll now hear from the individuals that requested to speak by phone. We'll start with the first caller.
Excuse me, although this time the tax recommendations was good, I wonder what happens to tax item 5A though. It's it's not truly transparent. I mean, I wonder if you just ignored it, if it was a better recommendation, and maybe you didn't even bother to present it to the public, like so many other things. And, Tara, next time please read the agenda item, the board letter. The board letter for the last item that you disciplined Audra and Consuelo on, clearly said revenues and also expenditures right in the first paragraph, so it's not hidden even. So please read those carefully. This is the last time I'll be warning you about that. Thanks.
We'll hear from the next caller.
Oh, funny, you don't remember my name. I have so much fun listening to comments. It is true. I got it. Okay, so I'm kind of concerned because on the topic of expenditures of revenue and traffic safety and policies. If you, Chair, Sarah, and whoever else on the board, if you discriminate on someone's speech, on something that's actually relevant, well then you're going to discriminate on your traffic policies and what you pass. Because you've already proven that you have a pattern of practice of discriminating against those you disagree with. And so I'm very concerned about what you're going to implement in, say, El Cajon, the city of El Cajon, on traffic safety. If that's how you operate public business, not your business, the public business. And, sorry, not only that, I really want to say that, Tara and Willow, you guys suck. And so does Allison Snow. Thank you. Comment is okay.
Thank you. We'll hear from the next caller.
Hold on. From 12 here, amen, and ditto to all of that, all of it. And also, just would like to say that, at this point, it is, it's borderline abuse that you're exposing your baby to being subjected to all this, and it's not good for your milk either, girl. You're producing some sour milk, and that's not okay. Your baby senses everything. If you care, you would do the right thing. Honestly, I already said you could afford it, and if you can't afford it, and it's really sad that you continue to do this. I don't know what you're trying to prove, but perhaps, I don't know, it's just weird. Very weird. But as far as this item, wait, hold on, before I go off topic. As far as this item, I had something to say about this item. Traffic advisor. Oh my God, no, I didn't. Okay, we're on number 6, or what number is this, 36? What item are we on, Andrew? I'm sorry.
Consuelo, we're on
Andrew
item
Potter.
6. We're on item 6, Consuelo, on the land use legislative session agenda.
Okay, got it, okay. Well, yeah, I didn't have much to say on that. But yeah, amen to what the previous speaker said, and, yeah. That's it, thank you.
Thank you. We'll hear from the next caller.
It's very hard to go and explain a complicated problem to you in a very, very short period of time. Everything I said was relevant if you gave me enough time to go and have conversation, but clearly you don't want to have conversation. I mean, you needed to get like another 2 lawyers last time you talked, the one and only time you talked to me, Tara. I found that funny. I mean, promise.
The item before us is 6, Traffic Advisory Committee on the Wednesday docket. Please ensure your comments are relevant to that item. If they are not, you will forfeit your time.
Electric cars, I get that. And my question is, if we're going to be pushing to electric cars, can we go with graphene batteries? I mean, they're better for the environment. We can put them out with water. If we're going to go ahead and push something like this, why don't we go ahead and do something that is pro-green? I understand an African-American kid at the age of 17 submitted this as a project in high school. And for some reason, our board members do not want to support a kid like that and get him in the history books. I personally don't understand that. Monica, I would love for you to explain yourself, but you don't think you need to. Right? You're almighty. I'm sorry, I apologize for that. I forgot, you are the person that's going to speak out for these people, but you're not. We could go ahead and generate $254 million in San Diego alone, where you don't need to go ahead and scoop us from every penny we own. But not one of you on the board is willing to go ahead and support that kid.
So this time is forfeited.
Thank you, Chair Lawson. Remember that concludes public comments on this item.
Okay, thank you very much. We have a motion by Supervisor Dutton. Or no, we don't. We have a request for comment.
Well, just a second, yeah, I'm happy to
Move to approve. I just want to thank DPW for all the hard work on this. I know Main Street and Aviation Road up in Fallbrook that people have been wanting to always stop for a while, and now they can all stop and be happy. So appreciate all your work, time, and effort on this. Thanks.
Okay, thank you very much. We have a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, with a motion second, please vote.
Chair Lawson, Raymer, that motion passes unanimously with all supervisors being present and voting on.
Okay, fantastic. Now we have non-public comment, then we're going to adjourn it. And we're off.
Thank you, Chair Lawson, Raymer. We have 8 remaining requests to speak on matters not listed on the agenda. 4 individuals in person and 4 requesting to speak by phone. For those who request to speak by phone, please dial into the conference line using the instructions that were provided to you. Begin with the in-person speakers. You'll have 2 minutes to address the board. Please state your name for the audio record. I'd like to invite forward Linda Love, Gabrielle, Leslie Audra, and Scott Shipman.
It's interesting the way you get so visceral when I'm talking about sexualization of children and children learning about incest and anal beads and anal sex and, you know, all of these different things that they can try out with adults and stuff like that. They're learning that in school.
Can you pause this for a moment for county council? Is this topic within the board's jurisdiction? My understanding is that the comments must be on subject matters within our jurisdiction, but not on item on our agenda today.
It's not on the
It's not on the agenda.
Okay.
What's
So
on
are
the
these
agenda?
comments within our subject matter jurisdiction as a board?
Are you fucking kidding me?
That's the discussion this year.
Okay. I am going to allow you to continue, but please make sure that your comments are on items within our board's jurisdiction, not our county jurisdiction.
Oh, it is. That is within the jurisdiction. But it's crazy, you're so visceral when I talk about it. It doesn't bother you that it happens. It bothers you that I'm talking about it. Sounds like it bothers your baby as well. Because her own mother thinks that ripping babies apart limb by limb is healthcare. You don't want me to talk about the things that you guys do, don't do it. You're the ones that are going to reap what you sow. Talk about karma's a bitch, fuck around and find out? Absolutely. Those are the things that you're going to have to answer to our maker about. And why you don't even care that you guys were collecting everybody's DNA for years. And that's being used against us. And we have surveillance. We have things like the Epstein files where people are eating children. And nobody wants to talk about you guys are trafficking children through CPS and foster care. Your baby doesn't even want to be near you. That's a very telltale sign. You can look at me all you want. What? Fuck around and find out. Let's go outside. You want to fuck around? Like, what the fuck? You guys are getting out of control. It's ridiculous. You think that this isn't a reflection of what you guys present to the people? Telling me that I can't have free speech? And you guys are attorneys? It's despicable. Did you guys sit up there on that dais and you act like you're untouchable? Because you can do anything that you want. You take the people's money, you rob them from them, and virtue signal and gaslight them like you're doing something to benefit them when you're fucking them over. Fuck you guys.
We'll now hear from the individuals that requested to speak by phone. We'll start with the first caller. Our first caller, to be honest, your device might be muted.
Hello, my name is Leonie, and I don't want the future generations to be told lies. Lies cause suffering. If you keep telling lies, it won't solve anything. So do the right thing. Stop acting like you're helping the people when you're not. Telling the truth is better. Thank you.
Thank you. And we'll hear from the next caller.
All right, this is Hector. Yeah, I've been reading the paper and, Trump is doing all these border walls into the military bases. So from, Yuma for 100 miles forest is now a Navy base. So he's pulling the, border patrol guys off the base, replacing them with Marines. So we're gonna have a big influx of border patrol on the interior. And it's probably gonna affect San Diego County. And one thing you guys could do is shut down those guys at the boardwalk at the beach for selling things without paying taxes. The city is letting it go, but the county could, it's a health concern. They're doing those sausages with no permit. They're not collecting taxes. I think it's a cartel thing too, because there's a couple guys that are controlling the whole thing down there at the boardwalk, and they have their own security. Where if you say something to one of the people, they'll get you. They'll like confront you or something. So there's drug dealers, they're doing cartel money, they're financing the thing. And it's not just one guy, it's controlled by a couple guys. It's really shady, and the guys that live down there, they know it's the cartel. So you should have the sheriff go down there and do a raid on them with ICE, because they're selling food without a permit. That's a health violation right there. Plus the competition, who's selling things, getting tax revenue, are undercut by these guys that aren't paying taxes. So it undercuts the guys in the stores selling t-shirts, and they're feeding the system for taxes. These other guys are not selling taxes, and they have their kids working there too. They have like young kids, like 10-year-old kids that are with their mom or something, and they're selling right out,
Thank you. I'm Chair Lost Agreement. That concludes the request for non-agenda communication.
Thank you so much. I will now turn it to the chairperson. Thank you, Madam Chair. Today I ask that we adjourn in memory of Lorenzo Salgado Araujo and Joan Sebastián Durán Guerrero. Lorenzo Salgado Araujo was a 52-year-old father and construction worker who had built a life centered around his family and his work. He is remembered by his loved ones as a hardworking father who cared deeply for his 3 sons and his family. Joan Sebastián Durán Guerrero was a 25-year-old father from Colombia who came to the United States seeking a better future for his young daughter. He worked 2 jobs and is remembered by those who knew him as kind and a caring member of his community. Both Lorenzo and Joan were fathers, sons, partners, neighbors, and members of their communities. Their lives were about much more than the circumstances surrounding their deaths. Their families are now left to grieve the loss of loved ones whose lives were cut tragically short during federal immigration enforcement operations. As a county, we recognize that behind every immigration enforcement action is a human being and a family whose lives can be profoundly affected. We must never lose sight of the dignity and humanity of the people at the center of these events. We also recognize the pain carried by their families and communities and extend our deepest condolences to everyone who knew and loved Lorenzo and Joan. May their families find comfort in the memories they shared, in the communities that continue to stand with them, and in the lasting impact both men had on the people around them. In honor of their lives and in remembrance of their families who continue to grieve their loss, I respectfully ask that today's meeting be adjourned in memory of Lorenzo Salgado Araujo and Joan Sebastián Durán Guerrero.
The next regular meeting of the Board of Supervisors will take place on Tuesday, September 1st, 2026 at 9 a.m.
I don't really need it, I guess if you just get, yes, I did have some notes. Or you can bring them back to my office. Oh, thank you, appreciate it.
No worries.
I want to file a complaint, so they're saying talk to the clerk. So how do I do it? It's got in there that it's talking about expenditures and revenues, and she targeted me, and that's not fair. And then she did it again in non-agenda, which is free speech under the Brown Act and the First Amendment. That's illegal. So I want to file a complaint because I know that is not. So you're not going to tell me that I can't.
No, I'm not going to tell you. What I'm going to tell you is that if you believe the crime has been committed, then you should talk to law enforcement, you should talk to an attorney.
But that's the whole. What's the point of the FPPC?
This is not an FPPC violation.
It would be an ethics.
It would be.
How can it not be government ethics?
Well, yes, you can file a complaint with our Ethics and Compliance Office. Anybody can do that. There's an online form if you want to use it. You can call in and file a complaint, and it'll be investigated. So that's certainly not.
Which you guys investigate it, and then it goes nowhere. Well, I mean, it's like me going to the sheriff when I get beat up by a sheriff, and I'm expecting them to give me justice instead of like.
I'm not going to back and forth about that. I'm telling you what your options are.
So you're saying I can't do an FPPC?
This, I believe. I mean, I'm not the FPPC. You certainly could, but this is
Why
not
does
within the
talk to the
FPPC.
clerk to file it? So I mean, now you're telling me where to go and
Hey, good job, Brian.
see if
Yeah,
someone's
they said
gonna
talk to the clerk because I'm
Right.
here.
Sure.
So now you're talking to me, and now I'm going to share with you the appropriate avenues. So ethics and compliance, law enforcement, talk to an attorney if you want to file a Brown Act complaint. Those are your options. But the FPPC handles conflicts of interest. They don't handle Brown Act issues.
Well, but how would that not fall under ethics?
Primarily, the FPPC is looking at financial issues, not necessarily acts that are happening. I mean, you can certainly file one of them, see what they say, but I think they're going to say this is outside of our jurisdiction.
But outside of that, going to the ethics department would be a different avenue outside of the FPPC.
Well, I think
or is
you're
that the
gonna
same
get
department
a
that
faster
goes to?
response out of local Office of Ethics and Compliance, and then if you feel like that's unsatisfactory, then you could escalate that.
Well, the state doesn't cover local like that. That's why you guys created one. So that would go through GA.
Well, yes, I mean that's why I'm suggesting you don't talk to the FPC because I don't think you can get anywhere with that.
Right. So I'm not going to get anywhere with anybody. That's why the government is set up the way it is. So. All right. You guys should arrest all of them. They're criminals running rampant. Tell them to go to law enforcement to get them to hold them in order. I can't even go to law enforcement for being beat up by law enforcement. So there's no remedy ever. It's set up intentionally so that you just get screwed and they just come after you for more money. That's why I'd like some lube if they're going to do it. You know what I mean? But they just ram it in there every time.